Bizzy, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, last time we spoke, you weren't going to VCon, but you're going to VCon now.
I am. I'm very excited about that. Took advantage of the burn sale, burned my 5 wood, and already booked my ticket, my travel, my lodging for Minnesota. So really pumped to go and do that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, for those that don't know, I am WadeWatts on Discord, and reached out to Bizzy. And with all the activity that's been kind of going on this week, I figured it'd be really cool to connect, have a kind of a free form discussion just about all the things that are going on, some strategy plays. So Bizzy, if somebody is watching this for the first time, they've not seen any of your content before, maybe give a little bit of background about you.
Sure, appreciate it. So Bizzy NFT is the handle that I use for my Discord and my YouTube. It's Bizzy NFT 23 on Twitter, a little different, but basically I'm covering as much Web3 as I can, but focusing specifically on VeeFriends and BookGames. If you're not familiar with these projects, where have you been? What are you doing with your life? Gary Vaynerchuk has come out with some amazing NFT projects. VeeFriends Series 1 dropped last year in May, and he followed that up with BookGames in January. And now VeeFriends Series 2 is coming out in 5 days. And all of these are tied together. So a lot of what I discuss on my channel is the strategy, the alpha that Gary gives us that's going to help us to benefit from these investments and to hopefully win the book games in the long run. And that changes daily what that looks like.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of an overview there.
Yeah. So a little bit of background on me. I've been in the crypto space for quite some time. I think I first got in back in 2013 when I learned about Bitcoin. I read the Bitcoin white paper and my mind just instantly started racing. So I bought some Bitcoin back then. I wish I bought more. Fast forward a few years later, I bought ETH, and I started getting into different projects during the ICO boom. That was around the same time when CryptoKitties came out. And that was my first experience with NFTs. I bought CryptoKitties, I bred them and sold them. And I really liked the concept. I was at a crypto conference back then and somebody approached me and they started talking about art on the blockchain. And they didn't even refer to NFTs as NFTs then. They just referred to them as like the protocol standard. And I didn't get it. I thought that's cool, but it's not in my wheelhouse, which unfortunately led to me passing on free CryptoPunks. So there's obviously a little bit of regret there. So yeah, I mean, fast forward to that, into 2017 hits, beginning of 2018, and the market tanks. Like crypto winter, full force. Projects that I was invested to went, I mean, like 70, 80% corrections. And that was painful. If you've not experienced a crypto winter, you will be tested. People say they have diamond hands, but they will definitely be tested. And so I just stepped away from the space, to be honest with you. For a while, I would kind of check on prices here and there. It would hurt to look at. But then COVID hit. I saw a Gary V video, didn't know anything about the guy. He kind of seemed like a motivational speaker to me a little bit. And then I realized that he's actually a really successful businessman. And then I heard that he's getting into the NFT space. I thought this is going to kind of go one of two ways, right? Like this is either going to be a failure or it's going to be successful. It's going to bring people into the space, and that's a great thing. So fast forward to May 11th of last year, I minted a Series 1. I almost minted more. I actually looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, I just bought this picture. Do you want me to buy you one?" She's like, "No, that's okay." So I passed on a very rare considerate cowboy. So somebody else is probably pretty thankful for that. And so, yeah, I then caught the Gary V live stream. I bought a bunch of books, not knowing what the heck that meant at that time. And then he reveals the details about BookGames. And I started getting very interested at that point in time because it kind of brought me back to my CryptoKitty days of like, ooh, there's a game behind here and there's mechanics. And so that started out with me just kind of scratching my head, keeping out information on a spreadsheet, which then turned into I'm spending way too much time. This doesn't scale. So then that came BookGames.info. So there's a lot that has happened, I think, in this past couple of weeks. And both Bizzy and I have gotten a lot of questions. And so what I wanted to do with him is just kind of talk about some of the upcoming events, things that are going on, and just kind of talk a little bit of strategy and clarify whether you're watching something for the very first time or you know this just as good as anybody else. So some of the next events coming up, right? We've got a lot of things that are potentially overlapping because we don't really know details, right? We've got the VCon art reveal, right? So that's one big thing. Do you think that there might be a April Fool's / maybe April early surprise for that?
Yeah, so I appreciate the background that you gave. I think it's important for people to understand there is some history, but it's not an extremely long history for most of us. A lot of stuff that's really brand new. So even if you're late, you're not too late to get in. So the dates you're talking about, I put out on Twitter what I thought might be an outline of possible future events coming up. And I've already been wrong in having to correct some of that because the information changes so fast.
Sure does.
The art reveal for the VCon ticket should be before Tuesday. I think somewhere Gary had said that before. Don't hold me to it. I'm going off memory, but I'm fairly confident he said it would be before the April 5th snapshot. So I don't know if he's going to play around with that. He's joking lately about he's going to keep pushing it if you keep asking, but I think it's coming very, very soon, certainly before Tuesday. So maybe this weekend we'll get something for that. And then following that, Tuesday is obviously huge, right?
Yeah, so that's going to be the friends list snapshot. So I think that's where things are going to get crazy. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces, right? You're going to get people in these next 4 or 5 days that maybe they don't have a BookGames token. So let's talk about that to those people, right? If you're just getting, I mean, you even saw today, Gary posted on Twitter, hop in Discord, post your first message, first time. I didn't catch the tweet, but I happen to have Discord open and I'm like, what are all these messages? Yeah. A ton of new people came in and are probably wanting to know, where do I get started? So if you have 0 BookGame tokens, let's maybe just kind of start there. You know, what would be your advice?
Do your own research. No, that would absolutely be important. So I think you have to understand what BookGames is in the context of the VeeFriends world that exists. So when VF1 minted, that was all there was. That was Gary's NFT project. He's in a bunch of other ones, CryptoPunks, Anon, World of Women, things like that. But this is his project, and BookGames is absolutely in that ecosystem. BookGames has 125,000 tokens to start, which is unheard of, just a ridiculous amount when it comes to NFT projects. Mm-hmm. The reason for that, and it's not always described this way, but he's using it as currency, for lack of a better word, a way to exchange one thing for another in this space. So when we're talking about Series 2 of VeeFriends, that's absolutely in the ecosystem, but BookGames plays a role in that. And there's different parts to that when we're gonna share that here in just a moment. But the big thing about BookGames, what makes it a game, is that you're buying these NFTs and then you have an opportunity to exchange them for various things, whether that's other NFTs, whether that's IRL collectibles like sports cards or access to different places and restaurants and things that you can't get otherwise. So that exchange or the burn opportunity for those tokens is extremely unique, something that other projects are now copying. And I think that will continue to drive the change in the space. But if you don't have any BookGames tokens, it's important to understand you're not just buying into any other NFT project and hoping these tokens, 10x, 100x over time. You're buying an opportunity to be a part of an ecosystem that gives you flexibility and choices almost on a daily, weekly basis, where you're going to have to decide, do I hold it? Do I burn it? What do I do with this? And what is my ultimate strategy? So I think that's a big, important thing that needs to be understood first.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one thing is, you have to probably people are wondering, why would you buy a BookGames token? Why? The reason why is what that does is that gives you a 28% chance of getting on the whitelist. And in this project, they call it a friends list. Why is that important? And why don't you just wait until open mint? And the reason is because that gives you a 12.5-day advantage that allows you to be able to mint one of the new series 2. So why is that important, right? That's very important because there's 55,555 series 2 NFTs, which is going to be done on layer 1. And in order to do that, you have to pay gas. And in this project, we're going to have a portion of those 55,000 go to open mint. And it's going to be an absolute gas war. And people are going to pay $3, $4, $5, maybe even more $100 to be able to hopefully mint. But from what we know, until we hear directly from the team, you're going to be able to mint people who are smart and who've been around for a while are going to be able to mint directly from the contract, which means they're going to be able to get the available NFTs before a human can click on their mouse, click on MetaMask, connect their wallet, do everything they need to do to secure one. So there is value to that. It's about a 28% chance. And if you're in the Discord or you're in the community and you see that number coming around, that's where that comes from. On that note, for those who know that, one thing I try to tell people is that that's a great number, but I really think that people should be focused on the other number, which is the probability that you're not on the friends list, which is 70, almost 2%. I think that's healthy, right? Rather than hoping and wishing that you get on the friends list, which I hope that you watching this video does, I think it helps set proper expectations. So the amount, it's $1,000, right? They're going to peg whatever $1,000 USD is in ETH at that time, or didn't he say like right before it, they're going to peg?
Yeah, absolutely.
So think about it, right? Right now, I haven't looked, but like ballpark 0.4 ETH is what it costs to get a BookGames token. Okay. Plus a little bit of gas. That's like about $1,300 USD. Then you're going to, if you do get a friends list spot, you're going to pay $1,000 to mint that, right? So now you're at like 23, getting closer to $2,500. And so, for let's say under an ETH, if you can get a BookGame token and you can mint that VF2, well, for under an ETH, now where does your probability come that you can take a VF2, flip that, sell that for maybe 2 ETH, 3 ETH? That option is definitely there. But the other option, I think, if you don't have any, you don't have 4 or 5 days to dive in to figure out how to get over into Token Trove and to buy this thing and to do all this stuff, you can also wait for the madness of the public mint to kind of settle down a little bit, and you can purchase one on secondary. But the thing that you're going to have to realize there is that maybe it costs 1 or 2 ETH, maybe even more. I really don't know. I've got some ideas of what I think the floors might be, but I mean, what are your thoughts on, you don't have any? Did we cover it? Am I missing something?
Yeah, no, you did good. I think sometimes we've been so deep in this space, we say things that are the common jargon for the space, and people who are just coming in may or may not understand all of that. So I want to step back and separate it into 3 buckets. You've got the friends list snapshot, which is Tuesday. You own BookGames tokens. Whatever tokens you have a 28% chance for each token to be selected for the white list, which is called the friends list. So the more tokens you have, the more chances you would have, although it doesn't compound. It's fun with math when people are like 28 plus 28 is 56. I have 2, I have 56. It's not exactly that way, but you have a chance to get on the friends list. The friends list gives you an opportunity to mint, if you're selected, to mint a VF2 before the public mint. Now, VF2 is on layer 1, which is the first layer of Ethereum. There is gas, which are transaction fees that you have to pay. BookGames tokens are on layer 2. There are no transaction fees. You can buy and sell and trade with no transaction fees, no gas fees. So the BookGames token, the whitelist spot that you get, the friends list spot, you have 12.5 days with which to mint. You will pay gas, but you can avoid the peak times. If everybody's trying to mint a project all at the same time, gas fees spike, there's traffic, and it causes you to spend more money. With 12.5 days, Gary is trying to offer you the opportunity to mint at 3 in the morning when nobody else is, and you can save a lot of money by doing that. So that is an event unto itself. The public mint will follow that. We don't know the exact date on the public mint yet, but the public mint, Gary has reserved at least 10,000 of Series 2 for that, and you will pay gas fees because it's first come, first serve. As soon as they're released to the public, everybody's going to rush in and try to grab one, and the gas fees are going to be as expensive as the mint itself, possibly. So you're going to pay maybe double, maybe triple, depending on the demand and what else is going on in the space, right? Ethereum is a blockchain network for all. And if there's another project going on, and plenty of projects are dropping every day. So the advantage of being on the friends list is huge. And you can only be on the friends list by buying BookGames tokens. So I think that is a very clear thing that people who don't have any BookGames, but they hear VeeFriends, they're familiar with that term, they're not familiar with BookGames. They need to understand the relationship in the ecosystem. And I think you said that. I just wanted to clarify about that. So my advice to people who don't own BookGames, but they want a VF2, you need to understand that dynamic, that BookGames is a entry point, not a guarantee, but a very strong entry point to get you access to VF2 to save you money in the long run. Because even if you get selected for the friends list, and even if you mint a VF2, you still have the BookGames token that you paid for. It doesn't go away. You don't lose it. And it is, according to what the market is, the price on it, the value on it could go up and down, but long-term, this project is deflationary, meaning that tokens get burned, there are less tokens, so the value of the remaining tokens go up. So it's likely over the long term, even if you invest in BookGames now, that token will be worth more later on at some point down the road. So it's a really good investment in something that Wade and I have understood to say, this is something we think as a long-term vision. There are a lot of short-term gains, but there's certainly a long-term value. And I'm not afraid that I'm going to lose anything by buying a BookGame token and holding, regardless of what happens with VF2.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any, you're not really risking a lot by getting one, even if you don't take part in VF2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think back from when I first got into the crypto world, and though, yes, there are opportunities to have taken profit, and in some I did, some I lost. Still, if I would have held the original purchases that I had almost 10 years ago, oof, it's hard to think about that. And I think the same thing applies to this project. The fact that it's very unique, it was the first project that I've ever heard of, and if anybody's heard of something different, I would love to know about it, that has this type of mechanism in it. Because as you said, they're being burnt, so they're deflationary. But on top of that, they serve the purpose of things just outside of just getting a VF2. I do remember when Gary first sent out a tweet or a Discord message that said, get familiar with Token Trove. I literally remember going, another thing. Like, I got to go learn another thing. Fast forward, I'm glad I spent the 5-10 minutes to watch a couple YouTube videos. Bizzy, you've put together some really good introductory videos. I really suggest that you link them in the description of this video, whether you're how to buy a BookGames token, some of the basic stuff. So if you want to dive further, Bizzy's already done that, and go watch those videos. But yeah, that's a great point. So let's maybe now jump into the other scenario where somebody has 1 or 2 or 3, maybe less than 5, and kind of talk about some options that they have.
Sure. So the other part of VF2, besides the friends list, besides the public mint, Gary has decided, so series 2 is obviously the second series of VeeFriends. So all of the characters, most of the characters, there's some he is retiring, but most of the characters from VF1 are going to be in VF2. And that's what the friends list and the public mint are about. You're minting the second iteration or the second series of these characters. He has also created, within the last month, he has hand-drawn brand new characters, 15 new characters that are going to be included in series 2. But the only way that you can obtain those is by burning BookGames tokens. So Gary has given plenty of hints. We don't know all of the mechanics, but we do know that 5 BookGames tokens that have the same frame is a good opportunity, a good base for you to be able to mint one of those new characters. There's a limited supply, so there will be somewhat of a race to try to make that happen. But that is a separate mechanism from the friends list, from the public mint. The only way to get that is from BookGames. So that plays into how many tokens people have and what type of tokens. If you're someone who has 1 or 2 tokens, again, I think those are solid investments, maybe for the long term. It gives you the opportunity for a friends list, but you're not going to be able to burn them for a new character, because Gary has told us 5 is the number that you really need to have, and it needs to be of the same frame. Right. So 1 or 2 will give you the friends list opportunity, and we'll give you an opportunity to sell them or use them in a different game down the road where you can exchange them for something else. Maybe it doesn't require 5. So if you want, you can certainly try to match up and get 5 frames. If you don't, and you just want to hold your BookGames and that's all you're focused on right now, holding is never a bad strategy. I'll continue to say that as we talk. Holding those, I think long-term, you're still going to, at the worst, break even if you're patient enough in that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that we could add to that is we can expect, I think it's fair to say that there's 2 events that are coming up that we expect to see a dip in prices. 1, after the friends list snapshot, and 2, after the special character burns. So if you are investing money that you can't afford to lose, and even though you might not want to admit it, but you may have paper hands and you may sell, maybe a life event happens and you need the liquidity, you don't want to get caught in a position where you're caught with your pants down. So an option that you can do, which I think some people should consider it, is to pull out some liquidity before the snapshot, right? Because we're slowly seeing the floor kind of creep back up. And what's going to happen is people are going to start to dump frames, and they're going to realize that they're on the friends list. They don't want these frames anymore. They're going to try to pull out, and then we're going to see a little bit of dip. And it's important to understand that, because I think you see this just as much as I do, is this is a long-term project and something I plan to be in for, I don't even know how many years, many, 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 many decades, hopefully. And so being liquid is very important, because if you do get a friends list spot and all your money is wrapped up in BookGame tokens, well, where's the liquidity going to come to mint that VF2, right? So that's a serious thing to consider is, am I positioned to do the things that I need to do to execute on my strategy? My strategy is going to be different than yours versus anybody else who's watching this. And so I think that's the only other thing. But yeah, so yeah, you hit all the points there. What about column whales, people with big bags, and they have a lot of BookGames tokens? They're going to likely get a lot of friends list spots, let's say in the 5 figures worth in minting. So 10 would be, they need to have $10,000 in liquidity plus some gas to be able to mint those. What are your thoughts on what some of the moves that some of the whales or the people who have larger holdings are going to do?
Yeah, so I am not a whale. Also, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, right? And neither is Wade. So this is for fun and educational purposes that we're trying to help and share our opinions on.
Absolutely.
I think that the whales that are in there, they have a different strategy, and I would not try to match a whale strategy in my position, right? For me, I think that the utility that comes with BookGames and with VeeFriends varies. If you look at VeeFriends 1, A Hangout Hawk does something different than a FaceTime Flea. It's a little bit different, but it's different. And there's going to be different games and book games that you're going to exchange for. You have to understand your strategy before you go in and make decisions. So whales that are going for VF2 certainly have those friends list spots. But like you said, if you don't have the liquidity set aside, you risk kind of wasting that opportunity, because everyone's going to be selling after the snapshot to get liquidity. I imagine they're going to be dumping frames that they didn't need, or tokens they didn't need, or won't help them with the burn sale. Also, after the burn sale, people are going to be dumping because not everybody's going to get a new character. There's just not enough new characters for the number of wallets that have 5. So you're going to see another downward pressure on the market for all of these different frame types. So I think while there is downward pressure there, you have the upward pressure of more people coming into the space, more people hearing about it. The hype from VF2 is going to be big. The IP and the announcements that Gary is creating, he mentioned cartoons coming out. His favorite cartoon is VeeFriends. I'm not aware of a VeeFriend cartoon yet. So there must be something brewing. And then I think the upward pressure from VCon is going to be enormous. So there will be a window between April 5th and May 19th. But I certainly think that Gary's day job is marketing, and he's going to continue to hype. Whatever your strategy is, whether you're a whale or not a whale, you need to understand that and avoid the FOMO. I say this in almost all of my videos. Avoid the FOMO, right? Be patient and look around. Everybody's staring down the barrel of VF2 right now. What are they missing that you might be able to take advantage of? And there's a lot of that out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
There's some strategies we probably should discuss about that too.
Sure. Yeah, and the one thing is that's important to point out is that if you do get a friends list spot and you don't have the liquidity, that spot, if it's not minted in that 12.5-day window, rolls over into the public mint. So there's 10,000 that are carved out initially for the public mint. So it goes a breakdown, right? There's 55,555 tokens. 10,255 are slotted to VF1 holders. 32,000 are going to be for the friends list snapshot. 10K are going to be for public mint, and then the remaining 3,300 are for the special character burns. So of that 32K, there's going to be some that don't get minted for a couple reasons, right? Somebody doesn't have enough liquidity, or they get assigned to a token that's unassigned. So it's very smart what they're doing. They don't go to waste. They're going to go out to the public mint. But that's just something that I think that I get asked a question a lot. And so it's important to kind of clarify that part too.
Absolutely.
And the other thing, on your point is that I don't know who said this the other day, but it sticks in my head is that, and it's about taking profit, right? And it's like, no one's ever lost money taking profit. You can never go wrong realizing gains, even if they're capital gains, they're within a year. That's a lot better than losing your money, and especially if that's something that you can't afford to lose. And just outside of financial, your mental health and your well-being, it's easy to get caught up, like you said, in the FOMO. Just know your means, know what you can do. It's going to be different from person to person. Just don't get too caught up. Spend money you can't afford to lose. If somebody were to ask me financial advice, I would tell them, this isn't financial advice, but only invest what you're okay losing. Because when you've went through a crypto winter, I went through two myself that have been 2 years long each, and it's rough. It sucks. It's not pretty. Projects disappear. How many times does Gary say 99% of these NFT projects are going to go to zero? It's going to happen. When? You don't know. It could be before VCon. It could be 3 years down the road. We just don't know. But the point is, if you're prepared and you are taking gains or taking profit as you are playing this game, you can't go wrong with that, right? Because what's going to happen, I expect, is we're going to see a dip. And that's going to maybe go down to like the 2 to 2.25 range for BookGames tokens. So if you're liquid and you plan to play this game for a long time, that's a great position to move back into the market. Because here's what's going to happen in shortly. Excuse me. What I'll do is I'll show you some of the BookGames.info tool that I think a lot of people are not realizing the impact. We know people still don't understand rarity. I feel like myself included, even though I'm in the weeds. But we generally know what's rare, kind of what you need, and kind of a lot of moving targets. But we're going to, I think, expect to have 15-ish thousand of these tokens burnt. And it's going to be across the board, all frames, attributes, spectaculars. What that's going to do is that's going to turn tokens that are maybe average in rarity, and it can make them very rare, which is a very unique variable to consider, because maybe holding something that is way more valuable in the long run is better. But as humans, we're so myopic, and it's so easy just to like see right here in front of our faces and forget that, ooh, we got this, I don't want to miss out mentality. FOMO sets in. We're not liquid. I mean, I've done it before, right? Move money over to immutable. I buy something because I think this is going to do what? Complete a set. It's going to, and then Gary says, silver pies bake best or pies bake best in silver ovens, or he sends a screenshot of some random combination and it instantly spikes and you're not liquid. And you're like, oh. So being liquid is a great thing, especially when we actually find out the details of the special character burns, right? Because we still have way more assumptions than we do concrete knowledge. And so I just can't stress that enough to people, is if you can stay liquid, I think that you're going to benefit in the long run, because you can move that out to USD if you had to, or you can move that back into BookGames, or you can figure out some other portion of your strategy.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So I have a question that's burning in my mind that I don't know the answer to, and I'm wrestling with it, and the decision point is fast approaching. We know that April 5th snapshot decides whether you can mint or not, and gives you all of that. And we know that the floor is rising dramatically. It's already jumped, what, 0.4 today? We went from 0.38 to 0.42, maybe even more since the last time we checked. I expect the floor to continue to rise as more and more people come in. They're like, I got to get something. And so they just grab it, whatever. If we mint, and we're minting a random character, we don't know if it's going to be one of the most rare that exists. We're getting the BookGames equivalent of the special characters, the tiny ogre or the koala or something like that, or if we're getting just a core base, whatever. It's completely randomized. Not like the Dutch auctions where you kind of know what you're minting ahead of time. So the opportunity to mint on the friends list is great, because you could mint something very valuable for the same price anybody else is minting something not so valuable. However, there is something to be said for, just like when BookGames came out, day one, the floor was crazy high. I know I overpaid for stuff because I just wanted in. I didn't want to miss it. And I expect VF2 to do a very similar thing. The floor is going to spike. People are going to list stuff and they don't know what it's worth. And so there's going to be things that are really high. There's also going to be mistakes made. But I imagine a couple weeks down the road, a month down the road, that floor is going to come back down to earth somewhat from where it starts, whatever that is. Does an opportunity exist to sell your BookGames tokens now when the floor is high and buy a VF2 later when it drops, when that floor drops? We don't know what the floor will be for VF2. We don't know how high the BookGames floor is going to go, although we do believe it's going to go down. So the thing that I struggle is the opportunity to hold the BookGames tokens and to maybe mint an ogre, right? Or a black cat, the red devil, which is maybe that's the one you burn for, but something equivalent to the most rare or the special in VF2. Is that more valuable than selling my BookGames tokens right now and making a good bag and then buying back in for what I might have minted at the bottom anyway. Does that make sense? That question clear?
Sure does. But it's a complicated one, right? Because the answer is who knows? And that's just the honest to God answer, right? Because you could plan it, right? And you could ride away. You could get a couple friends list spots, mint one that's just kind of an average, and you could hit it big and get the black cat, the astronaut, the elephant version of it, which is then going to, because, right, these are all one of ones. And a lot of series one holders might look to see some series two in one of the new poses that really attracts them. And then now you even have a more valuable asset. So you could sell that. You could, my not financial advice would be to split up some of that profit, save some of it, move some of it back into BookGames if you want to do this long term. There are going to be people who are just viewing this as I mean, Gary's even said it. V2 is going to be a flip game. I don't want it to be. It's not meant to be, but it will be. That will exist. But like Series 1 did, I mean, all of us would want to kick ourselves when VF1 sat at 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. We're paying that for a book game token right now, right? Which is kind of crazy to think about. But it did this, right? I remember, I feel like it was in the fall-ish. Gary said, I think the floor was like 6 or 7 ETH for Series 1. He's like, if you're thinking about getting one, you should get one now. And I'm thinking like, man, 7 ETH, like that, you know, and now 7 ETH is half the floor of where they are at now, if probably not even more. So there's always going to be moves to be made. That is the interesting dynamic about this game. And if this type of stuff intrigues you, knowing Gary, the type of person that he is, this type of stuff is going to continue to go on. So yes, this next month is going to be tons of activity. And a lot of people are so focused on that, they're not thinking about long-term. So what you said, I think, yeah, there's a part of that strategy fits into one that I've considered a bit. And so it's hard to say, to be honest, because special character burns, right? Some of these special character burns are going to be pretty expensive, right? Some of the top tier frames, you have to ask yourself, what is the asset that I'm getting in return for this? Is it going to be valuable? If it's 5 ETH that I just burnt, 4 ETH, 3 ETH, well, what am I going to get in return? And is that going to be equivalent? Can I flip that from 3 to 6? Because if we look at what V1s did, V1 cores, they had the biggest ROI compared to any other variation of VF1. So the answer is, I don't know. But what I'd like to do is I like to be agile as possible so that as the market begins to decide, you can try to have that first mover advantage because you say, here's where I sit, here's my strategy, I know my options. I'm not going to let FOMO get me, and I'm not going to do something that doesn't fit into what I want to get out of this. I think that you're going to win in the long run, right? You might miss out on 1 or 2 opportunities, but nobody hits every opportunity. And I think it's unrealistic to think along those lines. So it's a great, that's a great question. I think another thing, like you said, there's going to be 2 things that people are missing on. They're not going to understand backgrounds that are on these VF2s. They're not going to understand poses and where those come into play. And all the while we're talking about this, where has our attention went? VF2, 100% hardcore. Well, there's all these VCon tickets that are sitting there. So does the VCon ticket floor price start to drop? Now you zig when people are zagging, or zig when they zag. Now do you go buy a VCon ticket because people are so focused on VF2? What happens after that? VCon. Where does attention go? Back to VCon. Can you flip that and then flip that back into BookGames? Absolutely, I think you could. But it's a matter of how much time do you have? What is your position? And so that's the game. I think the game is just this constant like variation. I think most times Gary doesn't even know until he knows. And I think that's an interesting dynamic, to the game, right?
So another question, and I appreciate your answer there, that I've been pondering lately, a little bit off topic of strategy, and is VF1 has 268 characters. Gary decided in VF2 to add 15 more. Why? What in these 268 characters, we recognize that there are attributes or characteristics that Gary loves to talk about, whether it's empathy or arbitrage or the things that are about his life and the things that he's about. What was missing that he needed to bring up 15 more? Why 15? Why not 100 more? Why not 2 more? Where did this come from that he said, I left some things off of 268. I need to add some more. I find that fascinating that he would do that. You have any thoughts on that at all?
That's a great question. And I like it because trying to understand and get inside the brain of Gary is something I've thought about before. So this is a kind of a thing I've thought about. My initial thought is this, right? VF1, Series 1 became out of reach for a lot of people very fast. A lot of people want to get into ecosystems. They just want to be part of the VeeFriends community by holding one of the NFTs. So hence Series 2. Well, do you just come out with a different version of the same ones? Well, that's not the most creative thing. So do you add some extra? Sure. I think to your point earlier in the conversation about cartoons and developing the IP. I mean, we all know that Gary Vee has some ADD and can probably take all those characters and build out realms for all of them. But I think that as we begin to see what these are named, we kind of know some of them because we've got like sneak peeks of them, right? But Jeremy had made a mention about villains. And in every good story, you've got the good guys and the bad guys. And I can definitely see that. So I think just to continue to build the story out, maybe the cartoons, maybe, there's so many attributes that he rolled up into the first series, but he didn't roll them all up. So I'm sure that as he went through like Wikipedia and said like every attribute, he's like, oh yeah, empathy, and started to develop these characters that he missed out on some. And then again, at the same time, maybe there is no logic. Maybe it just, I want to add 15 more, and 5 times 3, that's 15. Gary loves 5. So there's some sort of randomness in there. I truly don't know, but I think it plays well into the story. It helps add more VF2 characters so that more people can buy them. So I feel like it's like a buffet, right? There's a lot of stuff out there. It could be, but that'd be my best guess.
Yeah, I think that's a great guess. When you think about the Fearless Fairy versus the Red Devil, things like that. And also the backgrounds, right? The backgrounds are pretty interesting and unique. And maybe those settings required some characters that might better fit in those settings, or more characters. Maybe these are lead characters for some storylines or some cartoons or whatever else he's going to create. And it's just interesting. I think that's very interesting. And certainly the value on these new characters is going to be high due to their limited supply, but it's quite possible that whatever storylines or collectibles or whatever comes out of this, those characters are going to play a key role. If they're putting in the effort to make these, and they didn't exist before, it seems like they're going to have some type of prominent role in the future. Yeah. Very excited to see what that is.
Yeah, definitely. And he's said multiple times, Series 2 is going to be the project of 2022. And if you want Gary to do something, doubt him. He will go and do it just because people doubt him. on top of that, he said that those 15 special characters are going to be the black cats, the elephants, the astronauts. They're going to be big characters. So maybe he thought really hard about, how do these new characters play into these stories so that I can use this to help teach really good lessons to the people that listen to these stories, whether they're kids or whether they're the adults that read them to their kids, right? So yeah, I mean, that's a great thing. I'm really interested to see, are we going to get something similar to what we got when they published data for BookGames, right? Here are the 15, here are the frames, here are the spectaculars. Are we going to get some sort of combination of that? Like, we know that there's going to be poses, right? We know that there's going to be different types of spectaculars like this gunmetal. I'm interested to see what that is, but we don't know quantities, right? We don't know how much of each of these variables there are yet, which is going to then create a whole lot of like, think on your toes. If you knew what you knew now, back when BookGames launched, the first 2 or 3 days were rough. To look at the sales, people selling ponies, people selling koalas and gratitudes for all, I mean, just on the floor. That's going to happen again, right? So that's another thing. Stay up late a couple nights, study that is if we have the ability to know that in advance. I think that's going to suit a lot of people very well if they do that. I know if I spent a little bit more time paying attention to this going into BookGames, I probably would have been able to pick up a lot of tokens I wish I had now for much cheaper than probably what I paid for them. So, and I think in the first week, I think I sold like a neon and a pearl and some other stuff. Because I'm just like, oh, okay, this probably will stay here for a while, and it didn't. So, I made mistakes. I probably will make mistakes in the future as well. So I don't know.
I think that's a great transition into what you've created with BookGames.info, where the information exists, but it is hard to correlate and to bring together. And it's hard if you're pouring over Discord the way we do, where we're sitting there reading every message that comes through. Not a lot of folks have time for that. So you've created a pretty powerful tool, I think. Hopefully you'll be able to share a little bit of that with us here.
Yeah, I'll share my, so like I was saying earlier, and I'll pull this up, is, let me see if I do this, if I can walk and talk at the same times. Let's see. You see my screen?
I can.
Okay, cool. So like I said, I was creating a spreadsheet to manage all this. And while I do this, let me find my computer charger. And it just became so fragmented. I mean, I had information scattered like everywhere. There's Discord, you got to hop over to. There's this token trove. And I don't really like token trove in some of their features. But rather than me going and scatter my brain across many different avenues to gather information, a spreadsheet turned into, wow, I'm spending a lot of time doing this versus there's more efficient ways to do this, came the system, right? So a little bit about it, right? So what we do is we pull data from the blockchain directly. So the same place that Token Trove pulls their data, the same place that, like on the VeeFriends website, when you see the numbers that they post, it's all directly from the blockchain. We pull that every 60 seconds. We refresh that data because time in this world is of the essence. Now, 60 seconds, a bot could go and do this, like buy something in a fraction of a second, but still being able to know the up-to-date versions of attributes, spectaculars, and frames is so important. I spoke about this a little bit earlier. So let me just say this, right? We offer a paid and free version. I implore everybody, go do the free version. There's a lot of cool stuff. I'll jump in. I'll show you that here in just a second. Let me come over here. I got to, cool. All right. So I have logged in, and as a free user, I'm going to go over those first, right? So you log into this dashboard, and this is real time, 60 seconds delayed data of every attribute, every spectacular, and every frame. And I'm going to take a screenshot of this the day before these burns happen and watch how much these pie charts change. Because all of a sudden, there might be 11,589 accountability tokens that are left. But if a ton of them are burnt, the dynamics are going to completely change. And the only way to do this is to aggregate the data and to be able to have some sort of way that you can see. So like holograms, obviously of the 5 spectaculars, there's the fewest. But what happens when all these lavas get burnt or all the bubble gums get burnt? It just completely changes. And so this is where I started to get into like things that are not so rare are going to become more rare. This is where I'm getting at. Let's go back to wallet value. You can take your public Ethereum wallet address and you can paste it in here. I'm going to just go take a random, we're going to pick a random token. This is also a feature that's free. You go to the token details and you can type in any token ID that you want. So let's use 1234. Don't know who owns that token or what, but it is there's a kind candor. And you can see down here, this is the wallet address that holds this token. So you can simply go here, copy, pretend this is me going to my MetaMask wallet, copying my address and pasting it in here, go back over to wallet value, paste that in there. And then let me move Zoom controls out of the way and hit evaluate. Okay, what this does is, I'm gonna just collapse this and get a little bit more realistic. What this does is this shows you your tokens, right? Kind of like if you're on Token Trove, gives you a count, but it gives you a value, a calculation of what's your wallet worth. And that's basically like, is there a floor price? If there isn't, we just take the last sale price. It's kind of the best way to gauge. I mean, this number can change very frequently, right? If a bunch of liquidity moves out of the market, it gives you an idea. One cool thing that we do here, and this works really well for people who have, 10, 20 or more tokens, is you can sort and filter. So you can say, show me all my accountabilities. Oh, it's these two. I got one with the Galaxy frame, one with the granite frame. Well, let's see all my golds. And you can look and see I've got, so this person's, I think, going after some Galaxy sets. And that's a really unique thing, especially for those that have the privilege to have a lot of BookGames tokens. You can't do this anywhere else, right? Where you can sort through your own wallet and organize. This can save people from burning and getting rid of tokens that are like currently right now, one of 15s, one of 8s, one of whatever that you should hold on to. So that's another way you can do that. So I kind of skimmed over the token details quickly, but you can literally type in anything that you want here of the 125,000 that exist. So I want to show you another free thing that we do. So you can go to Discord, you can do a search, and you can try to find, say, everything that Gary Vee has said. You can do that, but you got to scroll through like 100 pages, and you don't always have context. What we've done is we've aggregated all of the hints on Discord that Gary has given, and you can come in here and you can search. You can sort and you can filter by the types of categories. So if you want to see what has he mentioned about whitelists or minting or spectaculars or utility, it's a really easy way to do that. And it's not just what did Gary say, but there's context to it, which is important. Somebody asked any alpha on granite frames, and he said, check. Ooh, it's a good thing to realize that Gary's saying, in this case, granite frames are good. And he's saying that related to the burn, we assume, unless Gary changes his mind. So that's the hints, which is very valuable. Wallet sizes, and this is where I'm going to go into some of the actual paid features as well. The system is so robust, Bizzy, it's really easy to not understand how powerful this thing is. So we get a question a lot of, like how many wallet people unique wallets hold a certain number of tokens. We show that to you right here. You can, in any of these pages, you can use this actions dropdown, and you can create your own unique views. If you wanted to filter this data and say, I'll show you that on this one, because we get this a lot. How many people have 5 of blank frames? You get this every single day because everybody wants to know, where do I sit? Am I going to be one of the 220? So we have this like pre-baked in report here that just shows you. It says where the number of tokens is greater than or equal to 5. And at the bottom, you can see, well, let's pick a frame. So give me, let's just say gold. All right, so you're going to scroll down to the bottom. Oops, hold on. So let's pick gold. My computer is not liking me on this hotel Wi-Fi, which, by the way, you can also save this onto your phone and have it like a mobile app, so it's on the go as well. So that's very cool, very powerful. So it finally loaded, thanks to Wi-Fi, right? There's 592 people that hold 5 or more gold frames. You can simply click into this and you can say, well, I don't want to know 5. Gary just dropped some brand new alpha and said it's 7. So you can change that to 7. You can hit apply, and then you scroll down to the bottom and you realize, ooh, there's only 167. You can do this with any frame, any type of combination. You can, to your heart's desire, create variations of probability, what would happen under X condition. Let's talk then a little bit more about token filters, right? Token filters really allows you to do what Token Trove and the Immutable Marketplace should do and allow you for more robust searching. This is where token rarity, where people are going to capitalize and win, I think, in the long run. After the burns, right? Give me any random variation of give me a random attribute right here.
Humility.
All right, so humility. So you're going to see that there's 12,101 humility that exist. It then updates all these numbers here as, well, there's 4,689 lava. So if we wanted to do a humility lava and then pick a frame.
Let's go for pearl.
All right. So we know that there are 99 pearl that exist. But in this world, we have a thing of burning, which we talked about earlier. We can now know which are for sale, which are not for sale, which is cool because we show you everything, unlike Token Trove that only just shows you what is for sale. But we also let you see what's been burnt, right? So we can look, 2 humility lava pearls have been burnt, temporarily burnt, but they've been burnt, right? And that person or those 2 people are probably maybe feeling a little bit of regret. So you can begin to understand by looking at data like this, that if you have a humility lava pearl, you have a 1 of 97. Now, what happens when these pearl burns happen? Is that going to all of a sudden drop down to a 1 of 30? A 1 of, 25? We don't know, but you'll know once the burns happen. And so you can easily sort through any combination. And it's not just do 1 at a time. You could say, show me every humility, accountability, and empathy that is lava and has a pearl frame, right? So you can do all that and you can sort that way. So this part's really, really powerful. I think that a lot of people are going to not realize that they've got rare tokens and burn them. I would advise people to do their best to not burn good tokens. We get something often of, okay, wait, I've got this budget, a very specific budget of what I want to spend. How do I know what to buy, right? Token Queries is the place to tell you that. It's not me. I just come here and I run this. I go to actions and I want to filter this data, right? I want to filter the for sale price. If I've got a specific number in mind, it can just equal 0.5 ETH, but most people give me a range. I want to be between 0.47 ETH and 0.68 because somebody has a very specific range, right? You hit apply. Now we're filtering through 125,000 records, right? So you'll need to do one other thing, which is go to format and show everything. This way it keeps the system fast and snappy. Once this loads through, it's going to give you every single token that is for sale in your price range. Now here's the cool part. Yes, these are all your tokens that you have that fit in your price range. But doesn't it make more sense to purchase a more rare token? I think so. So you can click on any of these columns. You can simply sort by them. And I want to sort descending. And what this is going to do is this is going to list the highest rarity first. And what you're going to see is once this loads is you're going to see that the for sale prices often don't match the rarity, right? So why spend 0.53? Okay, it loaded. Okay, so you can spend, let me get into something a little bit more, it makes a little more sense. So 0.56, you're going to get a Tenacity Gold Caviar. It's got a 42 rarity score. But is that really that much more rare than something that is 0.11 ETH more? It may or may not, right? And of course, this is probably a lot of the same stuff. But the exercise is you should be making data-driven decisions in this. And if you do, in the long run, I'm confident that you're going to be able to win in this game.
So let me ask you a couple of things real quick.
Sure.
I appreciate the overview. So you said a lot of this that you're showing is free. Some of it is paid. When people go to this, and I've used it myself, and it's pretty intuitive, although there are some filtering and advanced features that can be used. Do you have any type of training videos or anything like that that people can do, or are you trying to show them one at a time as you go through?
That's a great question. What I did is, so we built the system in like four working days. And so it was a scramble. Make a web page, system's working. I did a screen recording. I put it on the website. If you just head over to BookGames.info, there's like a 10, 12-minute video of me talking through some of this stuff so you can kind of go through a little further. But a lot of stuff comes as a feature request. So we've added on extra features since then. So you can always just hit me up on Discord. Probably what makes a little bit more sense is to just come over onto Twitter and DM me, and I can try to help coach if you've got some sort of specific need of I need to figure out some sort of scenario.
So that's pretty incredible support, right? You're getting the guy who made it support directly from him, and I know that really helped me. And I think what you're showing is very, very valuable, and certainly for I think the low price that you've set for these advanced features is something that can save you a ton of money and also give you an advantage when you're dealing with the book game ecosystem.
100%
right?
agree with you.
What you've shown is pretty amazing.
Thank you. And I completely agree. I mean, you think about how much we spend in a gas transaction, right? To go send money, it's making data-driven decisions is going to help you out. But even if you don't have the budget for it, still the free features in here are still going to be beneficial. I'm not going to scroll through all of these because I want to keep this to the people who do pay, which it's funny because when I first reached out to you, I was using the system myself. It was a much more crude version of this, but it worked. There's a lot that goes from using something yourself to making it open to the public. And I tripled my position in BookGames tokens using this. And I think that people will be able to do that in the next month. I don't know, it might just be too volatile, but in the long run, absolutely. One great thing, we forget a lot of stuff, right? This is the woes of hotel Wi-Fi. Besides that, this feature is all of the Gary tokens that he's ever mentioned. So if you go to a lot of the things in Discord, he does not even give you context, right?
Right.
So
he just says, this is nice, or this is interesting.
Exactly. So how do you go search Discord for like this Koala 2025, right? Or, you know, you got to move the Zoom window up. Want dinner with me and Shaq next Friday in Atlanta? Burn 32 of these. If the floor tanks, could you? I mean, could that be a strategy where you wanted to go get dinner with Shaq and Gary for, you know, 32 of those? But so we've got every token that he's ever mentioned, screenshot, posted, and it's really easy to forget. We get so wrapped up into the minutia of what are the frames, what are this, and so this is also another valuable tool because you ask Gary something enough and he just pushes it off and says, you got to be patient. You got to be patient. And so that's really, really beneficial there. So there's a couple other things out there that are similar. You can do this where you can see live of all the different details that are related to spectaculars. Same with the frames, burn rates. This gets pretty fun, is to see how and when people are burning, right? So what are these events? All right, day one, what are all these VCon burns? And you can sort, you can say when was the accountability attribute burn, and you can see that. So you can geek out all day long looking at this stuff and spending time doing it. But one thing I want to stress again for the third time is that book games are forever. And if you plan to play this forever, knowing how token rarity is going to change over the next 15 to 30 days is going to be drastic. And that's where a tool really like this really comes into play. And there's some other stuff I think that we kind of already went over, but ranking, look and see. Me personally, Gary went out day one. Is there an emerald ogre? Well, why does Gary want to know that? It's green, right? Green is green. One thing that we did is, I hate the fact when you go to Token Trove and you search by specials, it's just like a throw up. Here's all the specials. I wanted to see all the ogres. Like they're like the pinnacle of the project, right? And so you can easily do that. If you click on specials, we give you a special type breakdown. So if you want to go look at all the the Time Machine tiny ogres, you click on that and you're able to see all of them right here for sale prices and specifics on them, right? Who holds them. So it's fun to play. It's fun to visualize a lot of this other than seeing just numbers, because I think humans tend to be very visual creatures. And so being able to visualize data is really important. Yeah, I mean, I think that is by far a robust enough overview of the system. But yeah, you can go check that out. And then what I'll do for you, Bizzy, and all for your watchers is I will create a coupon code. You can just use coupon Bizzy, lowercase BIZZY, and that will give you a discount, a 50% discount on your first month. So that way you can show appreciation to the people that follow you and subscribe. So we'll do that for all your loyal followers.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So in this video that we've made tonight, I think we've covered a lot of the basics. We talked about what the events are coming up over the next month or so, the things of what you should do if you want to be a part and involved in the VeeFriends, the book games, the VeeFriends Series 2 ecosystem and environment. We've talked about some strategies that we think are in play and maybe what we might do in different scenarios. And then also some of the tools that we use, tools that you have created, and given an overview of the value of the information. Information is everything when you're talking about these huge financial investments. We are playing games, book games, and investing in NFTs, but these are financial investments at the end of the day. And the information is what's going to allow you to make the best decisions possible. And you have created what I consider the ultimate aggregate of information that's going to help people win in the long run. So really appreciate that. Thank you for the discount code. I'm going to push that hot and heavy as well. So I think a lot of folks will find value in this.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything that we didn't cover?
No, let me just add on to that, because that's Gary preaches this thing about 5149. put in more than you get out, right? I'm not the only person in the space that does this. There's a lot of great people in the space that provide value. If you can provide value, do it. This community is great. If you are feeling overwhelmed and you've made it this far, congratulations. One of the easiest things you can do is join the Discord server and ask questions, right? At Bizzy NFT, I'm WadeWatts. Hop in there, ask questions. No question is a stupid question. There's a ton of information. And also everybody's input and perspective on this is very valuable. So the more that we kind of get people to weigh in, the better. And I don't want people to think that I've got to go do all this stuff to be part of this project. No, join the Discord, start there, take a deep breath. And, this is going to be a very, very, very long project, in my opinion.
Completely agree. And the accessibility of people like yourself in this project is something I think that really makes it special, right? Wade and I are both in the Discord every day. We're on Twitter every day. I'm kind of ashamed to say how much time I spend online with this stuff, but we really, truly want to help. And there are many others that are equally involved and want to help. So don't feel overwhelmed. We have other videos. We have other information that goes out on Twitter. Feel free to consume that, to ask questions. We are all here trying to make it together. So thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna do my sign off if that's okay. Are we ready for that?
Absolutely. Perfect timing.
All right, guys. Web3 is the future. Book games is forever. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.